Hello and welcome to the 27 presented by the classic We Are the World's First and Only Student-Teacher Podcast on the MCU. I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to say it despite the rift between me, Captain America, and Iron Man. I am Mr. McCaughey, and joining us today to talk about Captain America's Civil War, first-time guests on the pod, we have Scarlet and Rebecca. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. I teach you Scarlet. When Scarlet signed up, she said, can my friend Rebecca do it? Absolutely. But as we sit here, this is like the first time we've met. So welcome. Thanks for jumping on. And we like to just kind of start off by learning about our guests, especially for the first time. So Rebecca, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
All right. Thank you for having me. I got into the MCU about 4-ish years ago. I think it was around when Infinity War came out. All my friends had been like really MCU crazy, and with the hype I was like, I gotta get in on this. And then through that I also got like my sister into it, and then I also met Scarlet through that.
And we were just talking, you've seen all of these movies. You went from 0 to 100. You went full speed ahead to catch up on all of them.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. And you're a junior here?
Yes.
How's junior year going?
It's going a little stressful at times.
Don't worry, it's just going to get more stressful in the next couple weeks as we move into AP. But then it's not going to be stressful. Then it's all going to be over, and we'll be done with everything. Well,
For now.
For now. Then you got the summer, and then don't worry, everything gets much worse next year. So, no, I'm only joking. Not really. But thank you for joining us. I appreciate you coming in. Scarlet is in my band's 2A push class down in the library, we were saying. So, Scarlet, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, thank you for having me as well. I've been into the MCU since 2017, since Homecoming came out. But I didn't watch Homecoming, but I got into it by watching Captain America, the First Avenger, and then immediately started my MCU craze. I met Rebecca in 9th grade, and that's how we became friends. And both we bonded through our love for the MCU.
Nice.
But many of our times, or one of our main arguments is whether Cap was justified or Tony Stark was justified in his actions in Civil War. So, which is why I wanted to do this movie with her.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one of the many things that make this movie really good, right? I think there's a lot to unpack here. And that's what we're going to do over the course of this episode as we talk about Captain America Civil War, released back on May 6th, 2016. So it's 6 years ago. I keep asking people. I should have prepped you ahead of time on this. 6 years ago, you were in 5th grade or so.
Yes.
Do you have any memories of anything?
I actually watched this movie when it came out.
There you go. So you have the memory of the actual, going to the theater, checking it out. Very cool. Anything?
So I wasn't into. So I'm originally a DC fan. So I really didn't like Marvel because I thought DC was better during the time. But now I love both of them equally. No hate. But I remember everyone was Team Iron Man or Team Cap, and I was on Team Iron Man because I did not know anything of the MCU. But I was like, Iron Man's obviously superior since he could fly and has all this advanced technology, and Captain America only has his shield. What's he gonna do?
He has the super soldier serum. Now he's more than the shield.
Yeah, but I didn't know that at the time. But
Fair enough.
Now I do.
That's fair. So this movie made over $400 million in the box office. $408 million, situating it in the top 10 of the 27, number 9 in terms of money made, and number 1 of the 3 Captain Americas, although we will talk about this. Is this actually a Captain America movie? We'll get to that down the line. All the Avengers are back. I gotta be honest, I'm tired of introducing all of them at the beginning of these episodes. We know them all, except in this, we get Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, Tom Holland, the Spider-Man, some big ones, some heavy hitters entering the MCU chronology with this movie. It's directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, and we mentioned this when we did Winter Soldier, so I would say, without knowing yet, having not seen all of them, these are the heavy hitter directors of these movies.
They filmed Endgame.
Endgame, Civil War, Winter Soldier, and Infinity War, right? So, amongst those are the 3 Avengers movies are, at least in terms of the money and everything, those are, right up there at the top. And then, this one as well. So, we're going to jump into it here. We always start with our 1-sentence synopsis of the movie. And for this one, political involvement in the Avengers' affairs causes a rift between Captain America and Iron Man. These synopses are usually much more detailed or longer, but this one, I mean, I guess brevity is, what we need just to jump into this. So, Scarlet, why don't you start us off? Your thoughts on Captain America: Civil War?
All right. Honestly, I think the main issue about this whole movie is basically the Sokovia Accords.
Yep.
And basically where Captain America and Iron Man stand on it. The Accords, it's a way for... Basically, the way that Secretary Ross approaches the Accords is like the first fault I hear. He sees Avengers more as like weapons, as something that he could control rather than people that just want to do the right thing. And that's what I don't like. But something that's interesting about the Sokovia Accords, that it's based on the events of Avengers and Age of Ultron and Avengers. And as we could see, that there's a lot of issues that we could talk about their actions. Rebecca, do you want to go on from that?
Okay, like the actions of the government, do you want me to clarify, or of the Avengers?
Honestly, both.
Okay, so the Avengers, I understand the need for the Accords, because you can even see it in the beginning of Civil War when they're going after
Hydra.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's no damage control really happening. They're fighting in a very populated area. There's no evacuation zone or warning to the public. Even afterwards, you can see there's no disaster relief for any of the citizens. So I get the need for the Accords, but at the same time, the government's oh, you need to be controlled because you keep messing everything up and acting out of your own volition. But really, the biggest fault was Sokovia, but everything else was kind of coincidental. They can't control aliens coming down from space.
Okay. Well, so this is what if you listen to any of our previous episodes, I was so excited once this story developed about the Sokovia Accords, because this has been a theme of mine throughout all these episodes. The damage that the Avengers do to these areas, and like you said, no relief. They just... In Age of Ultron, they destroy Seoul, South Korea, and then they're so anyway, well, we're out of here. I know Stark will send in some relief, and it's you just destroyed this entire area. Here, we have the head of state being killed, with the king of Wakanda, T'Chaka, being killed when Wanda kind of control. First of all, that was actually pretty awesome. That Captain America's in trouble there with that explosion, and she's there to stop it, but then she redirects it. Sorry, that's a totally different thing. That he died. The king dies in the car explosion, not that. So I should clarify.
The Hydra dude died. I know his name.
He was about to explode.
Yeah,
he had bomb strapped in him.
Yes,
he was going to explode.
Exactly.
Wanda threw it into the
And that's when he died. The King T'Chaka, dies in the explosion with the car bomb. But I hear what you're saying. Now, that's a fair point that you can't control aliens coming out of the sky. They're there, and they're there to stop it. If they don't stop it, we're done. Especially, I was thinking the Avengers, we could have watched all of that from this school. We could have all gone up to the sixth floor and watched the Battle of New York take place in real time. So that is a fair point, that without them, there might even be more damage, and you can't stop aliens from coming in. But lots of damage from Seoul to Sokovia. Age of Ultron's a little bit worse with that than necessarily the original one. So it was interesting to see this pop up in the movie for me, because I've been, on this bend the whole time about it. And this is where we see our split. This is where the initial split between Captain America and Iron Man comes in. You kind of mentioned this, Team Iron Man, Team Cap. Where do you fall, at least on the split? Because you can have feelings about the superheroes, but in terms of where they end up with, should we sign the Accords? Should we not? What do you think?
It's complicated. We've come a long way on this. I was a very firm Team Iron Man believer. For the longest time, I will admit, it's because of some bias. I like Iron Man, I like Spider-Man, and I was oh yeah, it totally makes sense. Tony sees all of these people and he needs to hold himself, he feels he needs to hold himself accountable, especially after the lady by the elevator talked to him about Charlie, her son.
Dying in Sokovia.
Yeah. Yep. And then I watched the movie again with Scarlet recently, and I'm realizing I don't think either of them really chose a good course of action.
I agree.
There are faults to both of them. I don't know if I elaborate.
Yeah, I wanted to elaborate that. I was on a Team Cap because I loved Cap, but not, my opinion's changed now on Cap. But I was always on his side due to that bias. However, watching it again, they're both at a fault here. But also, Ross uses Sokovia as one of the main examples why the Sokovia Accords should pass. However, the Sokovia it was Tony's fault, okay?
Yeah.
Because everyone in the Avengers was opposed on building Ultron, and he did not tell anybody on it
Did it on
because
his
he
own,
yes, only Bruce helped him. And even when they told him to shut it down, he was like, "No, I'm gonna do it." And like I understand the reasons why he did it because he like since Avengers he saw like the galaxy, he saw the threat that they pose on Earth, and someone had to do something about it. But clearly, the other Avengers are like, you know, they're in their own thing, their own problems, and Tony he feels like he's the only one that has to deal with this. However, the way he's dealing with these like emotions of responsibility has to be directed in another way. Like we see in the like Iron Man 3, he tries to build all these suits to like protect the world, and now in Avengers of Ultron, he builds Ultron to be like this like ultimate protector. However, we see how those all fail. But at the same time, Tony like he needs to communicate with his team. They should keep each other in check, you know? And at the end of the day, Sokovia Accords was approved by 117 countries. Like, are you, like, I always refer to, like, the threat, let's say the low-key threat. Let's say there was a Sokovia Accords during that time. You think that 117 countries are going to approve something that needs, like, to be improved in, like, 3 hours, that, oh, my God, Earth is under attack, the Avengers need to go. You think some 117 people are going to sit in a room that all have different interests regarding, like, economic policies, government policies, etc.
And you're saying, like, to call in the Avengers,
Yeah.
kind of like to sign off on, like, okay, we
Yeah.
need them now. That is true. That's a lot of bureaucracy
Exactly.
to overcome.
Yeah, and the thing about the Avengers is like they have their own interests, but none of their interests tie with economic interests or government interests. It's just like, oh, out of the good of their hearts, or saving the people that they love. So honestly, keeping the Avengers in check, I don't think that was the right way to go with Sokovia Accords, but I think there should have they need to learn how to check themselves, and I think the Sokovia comes in a time where S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer exist because S.H.I.E.L.D. was the one that keeping the Avengers in check. They had the damage control, and I think we're gonna see this in Homecoming. Remember?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
You see this in Homecoming, how the S.H.I.E.L.D., took a role in, like, protecting people and making sure that after these, like, disastrous events, like the New York attacks, like, something goes on. But the Avengers, they're just the Avengers, and that's the thing. However, also Tony, he's played by guilt throughout this entire movie, especially with Sokovia. However, I'm gonna relate this to history, but basically,
It's a good idea.
yeah.
Good idea.
But like I remember the podcast Mr. Morgan sent about the 9/11. Like the whole Congress, they were just filled with guilt, and then they signed on this like bill that expanded the 9/11 like war for like 20 years, and it's just like you should never do a decision based on guilt. And I feel like that's what Tony's whole thing with the Sokovia Accords. He was just feeling so guilt ridden on all this. Like he was citing this was like, you gotta have a clear mind.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, then let me flip that. So there's one I'm not a big Iron Man fan. I don't like Tony. I don't like the attitude. And I get it. Students have told me and taught me that like the development of the character, he's changed, and I respect it. But I've been, as you would say, Team Cap, right?
Yeah.
I like Captain America.
I do too. Like.
But in this movie, I switched. I ended
Really?
up
No!
I ended up in terms of like from my previous ranting about the destruction the Avengers did, I more got with Tony in terms of like there needs to be some oversight to this. Is it like we said, these Sokovia Accords that have all these countries? No, in terms of that's probably a little too big, but some type of oversight. Just because they can't go around and kind of do whatever they want with the destruction of cities or the deaths of civilians or anything like that.
Yeah, 100%.
But now, when you think about Tony being too emotionally invested, Captain America is too emotionally invested in this because it's all driven by this like obsession with saving Bucky, and like that's all that's driving him. Tony is like whether it's the interaction with the mother, whether it's like what I respect with Tony out of this is that he's kind of said like, I want to get out. I'm trying to make things right with Pepper, but I just keep getting pulled back into this. Whereas Captain America he's got those Bucky blinders on. He's only focused on, trying to rescue his friend and save his friend. So like that was one of the things I liked about this. From my viewing of the previous movies, I had a like 180 on both characters a little bit. So
I actually have a whole TED talk. I'm joking, not that long, but basically, should I jump in?
If you want to, go for it.
Alright, so basically, Steve Rogers is an interesting character. And like we see throughout the movie, like he even admits it. Like when he hears Bucky, like his mind completely goes blank.
It's what leads to almost his death with what Wanda stops, because the guy says like, "Oh, they still have Bucky," or whatever, and he freezes.
But honestly, the thing about his character is like we feel like before I like watched before I watched Endgame, I thought Steve was this guy. He just like he did the right thing. He does the right thing. He believes in the good of people, etc., etc. But like after watching Endgame, like rewatching all these movies, I realized like who he truly is. And truly is he's a man out of time, trying to go back. And we see. Okay, let me explain. So basically, when Steve immediately comes back from the ice, whatever, he tries to find everything that he could on the past. He tries to find Peggy, and we see that she dies in this movie.
Yep.
And you see how heartbroken he is after hearing Peggy dies, because that was like his last connection to his past. But then turns out his best friend Bucky is still alive. So what does Steve does? Run around across the world trying to find him. Throughout Age of Ultron as well, he's been trying to find Bucky because it's like really the last thing to his past. And we can see this every time he sees Bucky. He's like, do you remember this? Do you remember that? He wants that old Bucky back, his best friend Bucky, his like lifelong best friend, like always there for him Bucky. However, that's not Bucky. That's not who he is today. And it's the idea, like, he's always trying to go back in time, because at the end of the day, I don't think Steve really wanted him to be a hero. He just wants to protect the people he loves, which is why he was so, like, easy. Like, he really didn't, I don't want to say he didn't care dropping the shield, but, like, the shield really didn't mean so much to him, as more as it meant a way for him to protect the people he loved, including Bucky, as we see in the first Avenger. Like, he really ditched everything just to go save him.
Yeah.
And the thing that, like, you should keep in mind while watching these movies, Steve Rogers is a man out of his time, trying to do whatever it takes to hold on to those past memories, past life. So what happens when he gets that opportunity? Or what if he does get the opportunity to go back? That's that. That's that. So basically, and also, Steve Rogers is not a good leader of the team. As a leader, and especially as a leader of a hero group, you should be the one trying to reunite people, trying to keep people together, not divided on these issues. However, he's very, very, very stubborn. Yeah. And I think, I remember reading a post that was like, the super serum increased all those like emotions or like characteristics, and one of those characteristics Steve already had was stubbornness. Yeah. And so that was like just raised up to a max. So
stubbornness of like even just trying to continually enroll in the military in the first one, and even I think to your point, like at the end of Age of Ultron, when Hulk and Thor and Iron Man disappear, there's an immediate pivot to now this new group of Avengers. So it's not even, so he's just still kind of like hyper focused on that. I found it interesting. Just it was like a small part, but like the dynamic between Tony and Steve, even born a little bit out of like Tony as a little kid having his dad always tell him how great Captain America is, and how that that definitely plays something, especially like the read you get on Tony as a person. That that's something that having a strained relationship with his father, or the death of his father, as we see here, like losing his parents, tragically. That probably carried with him, and now as an adult, he's still kind of,
Adding on to that, me and Scarlet were talking about it. When we were rewatching the movie, we noticed when he finds out that Bucky killed his parents, he says, "You killed my mom." He doesn't actually mention his dad at all. Never. And then also when Steve is like beating him up very badly at the end, he says, "That shield never belonged to you. It was my dad's."
He made it.
And then Tony doesn't actually see Steve as he has a lot of resentment for him because of the way he grew up, and I think that plays into how he acts a lot,
especially with Steve.
And you could probably go back and blame his dad for even Captain America existing, not even with the serum, but getting him out of the ice. Like his dad was the one that really dragged him out of it.
Also those super serum things that he had in his car. That's gonna play a huge issue in later movies.
I was gonna say, do you find out where were they going before the Winter Soldier gets them?
Ohio? I want to say Ohio.
It was
because remember it wasn't
Ohio. I think.
Okay. They're probably going to Washington or something. I don't know.
But either way, it was interesting that but then they get kind of taken.
December 16, 1991.
Introduction of a few different people. Black Panther. Awesome. The scene where he fights the Winter Soldier, just that whole scene, that whole fight scene is excellent. And even just what's so, and I'll talk about this when we get to, but what's so exciting about this movie is when all these people pop up and you're like, oh my god, it's Black Panther, oh my god, it's Spider-Man, and then going into that. But, he plays a major role in this, obviously, from
He
like
does,
continually
yes.
like
Oh.
he's also kind of obsessed with Bucky.
Yeah.
You know, and now like you killed my father, I'm gonna get you. But by the end, it seems like he has helped everyone escape to Wakanda. Is that essentially where? Is that was that in this post-credit scene where like
Yeah.
they're kind of they're off
yeah.
in Wakanda. Bucky goes back under the freeze, but they're all kind of
Yeah. So Bucky stays on Wakanda, but the rest of them, Natasha, Sam, and Steve, they're hiding around the world right now.
which we'll see in
Yeah.
Black Widow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Bucky's getting cured by the facilities and the technology and the research that they have over there. But T'Challa, I love him. He's just amazing.
Such a
He
great
is.
character.
Yeah.
He is.
His entire talk with Zemo at the end,
my
I'm like,
God.
this man can say no wrong. Like, he
Yes.
realizes what, I guess, Tony and Steve don't, which
Yes.
is about how he doesn't want to let, like, revenge consume him.
Yes.
And that he spares Zemo, even from, like, killing himself because he says that the world is not done with him. It's so well written.
And he has a whole different set of responsibilities as a head of
does,
state. Like he's a
yeah.
king of a country, so like that's not just like being able to
Yeah.
go around the world as an Avenger and do what you want.
Yeah.
But he has other responsibilities, so he needs that perspective in order to kind of lead his people and be the leader that Wakanda needs. Spider-Man pops up.
Oh,
He's so good. I just love how young he is. Like, you just feel his youth. He's only been doing it for 6
Yes.
months. He doesn't know the superhero thing. Who is it? Is it Falcon or someone's like, we usually don't talk this
Yeah,
stuff when we're
oh my
fighting.
god,
you know?
yes! Oh my god, that was one of my favorite scenes. Like the banter, oh my
yes.
god, amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, there was like this part that he was like, hey, you missed this, or like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and then throws like the shield right at, like something at him, and like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also when he's fighting Bucky, when he
Oh
just
my
points
God,
out, like, oh my
yes.
gosh, your arm is
You
made
have
out
a metal
of
arm.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And he totally holds his own in the
Yeah.
fights with everyone. He is right there with everyone. He ends up pinning Falcon and Bucky down with his web, and like he's right there, and he's just this young kid. I just love it where he's like, I need to impress Mr. Stark. That's what I'm here for. And I'm like, so I love that.
Also the Ant-Man thing, like he literally like stopped that battle.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So Ant-Man 2, 1.
Oh yeah.
I just love, and this came up in the Ant-Man episode that I can remember. What is Ant-Man's name? I can
Scott
remember.
Lang.
Yeah.
Scott. That like he's the most non-superhero superhero because like he's just a guy. He's like a burglar. He's a single dad. He's got. So then even just his interactions with everyone, they call him together. He's like, oh, like just like pointing everyone out. It kind of confirms that everyman kind of vibe. And when he becomes giant Ant-Man, that's awesome. But you're right, Spider-Man is the one that kind of stops that.
Yeah, honestly, he's an underrated superhero still, and I feel like he deserves much more appreciation. Scott Lang specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's great. But
I've learned that, like even just from seeing, because Ant-Man was the last episode we did. That's chronologically, it's right before this, and I was kind of like, not that I disliked him, but it was like, oh, Ant-Man,
Yeah.
but seeing one like pretty good. Not that it's really just it's not powers per se, but like what he can do is like
100%.
super valuable
Yeah.
from being able to get inside Iron Man's gear to becoming this giant and just kind of tossing everyone around. Okay, your grade in A Push is resting on this fight. You ready? So in a fight, which side are you taking?
Oh,
Okay.
God.
So we got
Do we
Spider-Man,
need to
Iron
know?
Man, Vision, War Machine, Black Widow, Black Panther.
Oh no! Okay.
Versus, and that's the Iron Man side, that's the Tony side, Captain America, Falcon, Ant-Man, Wanda, Hawkeye, and I guess if we're gonna throw the Winter Soldier in there, I mean, like he's like, but he's fighting on that side in the movie
Are we
Yeah.
counting Natasha on both sides?
because she does kind of flip at the end.
Honestly, I'm on her team.
If
Yeah.
I had to choose Iron Man, he's got a lot of heavy hitters. He has my favorites. Like, if we're not even
Okay,
like
but
looking
you're not
at
gonna
the
be interacting
accords.
with them. We're gonna be trying to fight the other
Okay,
team.
but Vision can literally go through things.
Okay, but
Yeah.
what did Vision do at the end
Spider-Man
of the?
cleared Falcon and Bucky.
Okay, but Vision could have hurt you though.
Okay.
Actually, no, that's kind of foul.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
That's kind of foul. But honest, because this is my thing with the whole like, where was Tony and his team of lawyers to revise this? Like, I don't like.
Right.
How many times hasn't Tony opposed the government, including Natasha, and now they're like all siding with him?
But like, does he want to? What are you talking about? Revising the
Yeah, 'cause,
accords,
like, I
or
feel-
because
yeah.
like, does he
Yeah.
even want that though? He just seems to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
Let me sign. Show me where to sign. I don't want to do this.
But I
anymore.
see, like, when you see like especially like a teammate, like you're supposed to make compromises. You're supposed to make negotiations. Where was that energy for the Sokovia Accords? Like, yes, Cap opposed it, but like he could have been like, oh, we could. I think he did say something like, oh, we could revise this, but like, why couldn't you revise this that day? And also the deadlines. Ross gave them 3 days.
That's
Yeah.
not
3
professional
days
at all.
No,
You sign
no.
it or you retire. That's not
Yeah.
professional. I want
Yeah.
these people to have a lawyer. Okay.
What is Ross's official job? Where is he from
He's
exactly? Is
Secretary
he the
of-
UN
he's the
or is he like?
Secretary of
State.
War.
Oh,
Yeah,
so he's
War,
like a
yeah.
cabinet
Yeah.
level,
Yeah,
like
he,
U.S.
yeah.
official.
Mhm. We don't like him.
I think you dodged my question. I don't think you
Oh,
picked a
yeah.
side.
Pick a side, Scarlet.
Yo, I'm sorry, Rebecca, but you don't.
What? After all of that,
Yeah.
after everything that
Listen.
Captain America has done throughout the
Listen,
entire
okay, but what
MCU.
about Falcon?
Okay.
Okay, and then he was right though.
I
He
love
was.
Falcon, but he got a little bit beat up by a 15-year-old.
Okay, listen, but they were right though. Would you like to? Okay, this is I always think of because we can't spoil anything. We can't
Okay.
spoil anything.
Okay.
However, what happens if there's a really big threat that nobody knows about and the Avengers have to be there? Who were the first people in the Endgame, Infinity War? Who were the first people to come to rise the situation? I know you know who it is. I know who you know, and it wasn't Team Iron Man. That's who was it. Okay. And honestly, like. Also, like, okay, they're gonna retire, and what they were gonna do, okay, Cap? I mean, I feel like Cap could live off his Social Security if that even exists.
The VA benefits for Captain America.
If that even exists for him. But what about Falcon, who has given his life away to this cause? Hawkeye, he's retiring, but like Scott Lang, he's doing his own thing. He's doing his own thing. And then Wanda, what about Wanda?
Okay, that's fair.
Tony
I
literally
get that.
kept her in
I
her room.
understand that argument.
She couldn't even go out to the store and buy paprika.
I'm just saying,
Paprika.
if it was,
Paprika.
if we ignore all of the political side of this, and it was just which team would.
But
be
then we're
on
ignoring the
I would
entire
choose
side of
Iron Man.
this.
But that's the point is that we see the complexities within the argument,
Yes,
but like
okay.
for funsies,
For funsies.
we had to pick a side.
Getting too emotional.
It'd be
Okay.
Team Iron Man.
Honestly, I love Natasha, but I will see her when she betrays y'all.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm Team
Wow.
Cap. Because I
This is
agree with
so
their
sad.
side. I agree with their side.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple things. One, if you're only listening to this podcast, please go and find this on the Classic YouTube channel because I essentially could have just left the room because the two of you just locked in on one of them. We're just like yelling at each other. Not yelling, but,
It's the 4 years of this arguing coming together to this one point in time.
so it sounds like I'm the tiebreaker then.
Yeah.
So when I first saw this, to me, it was no doubt Iron Man's team. Just in terms of like, just the breakdown of like, who the powers, who's good in the fight. I mean, especially Vision seems unstoppable.
You
I mean, like he has
literally-
an Infinity Stone in his head. Someone said
He
that.
got
like,
distracted.
He went through Ant-Man, like straight
Literally.
through him. Why
He went-
didn't he do that in the first place is my thing.
Just
Just send
because
Vision by himself. He
Infinity
went through
War
everyone.
flashbacks.
But then flipping around, like I've been a Captain America fan the whole time. Ant-Man, I just said underrated. I think can do a lot of things. If you have Bucky in there, like Winter Soldier is.
He is.
Oh, yeah.
He's
he could do
awesome.
something.
I mean, he can really mess people up.
Yeah.
Wanda, it's pretty balanced, man. I don't know. I've been like a Hawkeye detractor the whole time. Been like, it's grown me. At first, where I was like,
I mean-
the dude shoots arrows.
Yeah.
out his eye.
Literally.
But some people have turned me a little bit where they're like, he is fighting these like supervillains with a bow and arrow. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
He has the arrow that goes onto Wanda's head in Age
Yeah.
of Ultron. That kind. So like, it's not just like shooting arrows. At the end of the day, though, I'm gonna go Team Iron
Let's
Man.
go!
I'm gonna-
What?
I think for a fight,
yeah.
it seems like
100%,
you all like you just went real deep with like.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
other things going on, but I'm just talking about a fight. I need to keep my job here at Townsend Harris. Who am I gonna pick? I'm gonna go with Team
I'll
Iron
see
Man here.
y'all. I don't know when.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be in hiding in Wakanda. Okay,
Ah,
vacation
there you
side.
go.
Okay, but you're also a criminal.
Okay.
You will never be a U.S. citizen again.
Do I really want to come back to this country?
Oh, wow!
And also, like, I don't know, like, there's so much cool stuff, and, like, so much other people need help, and just, like, help them under, like, the government's radar without having, like, all the publicity of it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm able to do more good if you think about it. And we could see that in Black Widow, too. But that's...
Well, I hope you have fun with your
Yeah,
teammates.
yeah, you could just call me on that burner phone when you need me.
Except, no.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Oh, we never talked about how we thought that Peter, like,
Have fun fighting a kid, man.
yeah,
Actually, yeah.
like, Peter was way too young to be brought into this, I think. Like, Tony is a grown man, and he recruited a child with very little experience to fight people who have been
100%.
fighting.
I
their
was even
entire
like,
lives.
he just saw videos of him on YouTube.
Yeah,
Like, how did he know to even
yeah.
find his house?
Yeah.
And I get that he's Tony Stark and he can find out different things,
Yeah.
but you're not wrong. How old is he?
15.
He's 15?
Yeah, we're like
Yeah,
seven.
that's
Like, you're
really
older
young.
than him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
that's
fighting
really
crime.
young.
At our
Yeah,
age.
I mean, yeah, but also like he's finding like 6 like superpowered individuals.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, what did Tony expect? You expect them to hold back? Because like, I feel like, especially like Bucky and Sam, they could have gone like hard on
Oh,
the kid.
yeah.
They held back so much, and like basically, and yeah, like why would you bring a kid? And the thing is also like the push and pull thing from when like he was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And then he was like, "Oh."
There's a point in the movie where Tony goes to check up on Peter after he gets really hit, but like you can see when Tony goes to check up on him,
Sorry.
Peter goes immediately into
Yeah.
fight or flight.
Yeah.
Like he's still in that fighting mindset, and like that is not a good thing to be exposed to
Yeah.
at his
Yes.
age.
100%. And then look what even happened to War Machine in this. Like he's
Yeah.
almost like paralyzed
Yeah.
Oh
from
my God,
fighting
yeah.
in this battle, and you know he's got the suit. And he's a grown man, and then like we said, we got this 15-year-old kid. That's a really good
Yeah.
point. He
And,
should not have pulled him into that.
And he's pulling like. You're
That's a
not
Tony
gonna-
Stark
yeah.
move, though.
Yeah.
That's a Tony
Yeah.
Stark move. It's selfish. It's him. What do I need? This is
Yeah.
what drives
But
Tony.
he really did pull him into a conflict that's gonna like, the trauma that he's just gonna get being part of Avengers or being like so popular is gonna be, you're gonna see it throughout all of his
Oh yeah,
movies.
it hits him hard.
And like there could have been a different introduction, but again, that's so Tony of him to do. And even like I think one of the teammates like Cap calls him like really a kid.
yeah,
You're
he's
really
like,
gonna bring a kid. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, I didn't carbon date him. Like,
Yeah. But also Sam Wilson checking up on War Machine after he gets shot down.
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
that man.
Sam like
He's
constantly
amazing.
checks up on
Yes.
Rhodey after he
Yes.
falls. He dives for him too, even when they're in the raft. Sam is like, "Oh, how is Rhodey
You see?
doing?"
Yeah,
This
true.
man has so much compassion in his heart.
Although he's had a bad couple movies because the
Oh.
15-year-old kid pinned him down,
Yeah,
Spider-Man,
yeah,
and
literally.
Ant-Man like embarrasses him. And
He
I
literally-
love that interaction
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they
he's
meet
like,
again,
oh,
and he's
hate
kind of like,
attack.
"Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, also like in that the whole raft scene when he was like, you have to come as a friend. Like honestly, like he is not like you gotta watch the Disney Plus series.
Oh,
but
Falcon and Winter Soldier, super
We will
good.
get to
amazing. But basically, like Sam, he's not stubborn at all. Like he understands Tony's view, and he's like, you know what? Yes, you could go help him, but like you have to make sure like no violence, no conflict. But of course, we see that. That happens. It's inevitable.
All right, so let me get to the big question here because this has come up. Is this a Captain America movie or is this an Avengers movie?
It's an
Avengers,
Avengers movie.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but like Tony stole like half of his screen time.
Yeah.
And
We have introduction of new characters as
Literally,
Avengers
yeah.
into the MCU. Like the only reason it could really be classified as a
Because
Captain
it's in
America
his
movie is because
perspective.
one of the driving points, I guess, is about Bucky.
It's Bucky. That's what I wrote.
Yeah,
That
but,
is
like-
it the Bucky thing that makes this kind of Captain
it is,
America?
honestly,
Yeah.
yeah, we could say it is because
But like there, if you see in all the other Avenger movies, I guess there's still like other driving points. Like for the Loki invasion, you could have been like, oh, it was a Thor movie because it had Loki in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a driving
It's still an
villain.
Avengers movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like you could see all the witty banter and stuff, like yeah.
It has, the whole, even
has,
just
yeah.
like this, like you said, having that many of these superheroes there just
Yeah.
makes it, because even when I kind of like do my own rankings, all these movies, they kind of have an advantage over the other ones,
Yeah.
because there's so many people, if you,
Yeah.
I like him,
Yeah.
I like her, I like, so I think it is kind of
Yeah.
an Avengers movie. It
We
does
don't-
end
yeah.
up there.
We don't call it Captain America, we just call it
Call it
Civil
Civil
War.
War, yeah.
It's true. Which shout out to Mateo, who was on the Avengers episode, and when I asked him how many Avengers movies are there, and he said 4, because he included this one.
What? But
No,
there
or-
was 4.
I mean 5 then. 5.
Oh.
Avengers, Age of Ultron. Oh yeah, sorry. He said 5. He added it.
Oh.
I was like, aren't there 4?
Yeah.
Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame. He was like, no, I think Civil War.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing, but when we learned about the Civil War in AP push, I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Civil War, Captain America, no,
Oh
actually
no!
the North and the South one, yeah.
I feel like there's some type of like, thesis paper I could write, something connected to each side, if one of these sides represented the North and the South in the Civil War.
Yeah.
That's a whole other, that's a
Yeah.
real crossing streams
Yeah, there's-
of
none of them
history
are
and
racist.
movies.
I mean, Captain,
That's a whole other podcast about who's the most racist of them.
yeah.
Oh no!
But Steve, but anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he is. It's just like.
Well, no. If I were to pick one without thinking about it, like he was born in like 1915
Yeah,
or whatever,
like,
so that might.
Yeah, and you can see like how like the culture clash that he had to experience.
It's honestly a miracle that he doesn't have like all the political views that most
Yeah.
people
Had
had
back in the
then.
day. I mean, he was the little guy back in the day. Like he was
Yeah.
really getting like
That's true, yeah.
he was getting
All right, so let's put a bow on this here. If you were to put this within, you said you've seen all 27 of these movies. Where are you putting Civil War within your own kind of personal rankings?
It's gonna be one at the top because the thing is like. It's an alright movie. It's alright. It's really good. But I think it's because I'm able to talk about it with Rebecca today that I love this movie so much because like I could still bring this up and I'll still be Team Cap. No cap.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like this movie and the introductions of T'Challa and
Yep.
Spider-Man
Yep.
and Natasha and like how caring she is throughout this entire movie. But it's just I really don't like the actions that both of the heroes of the team, Cap and Iron Man. They could have really been different, but honestly, they're just really both two stubborn people.
Yeah.
That it's really hard that they were in a team in the first place. So
Yeah.
Fair.
I think for me, it sits comfortably in the middle. I think I'm rating it based off of like pure like enjoyability
Yeah.
when I'm watching
Yes.
it. And like I feel like a lot of this movie in memory for me, when me and Scarlet were watching it, I was like, this was a plot point. Because for me, the movie is like, okay, they fought together.
Yeah.
The Sokovia Accords, and they fought together.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And I feel like
There
there's
was
a
so
lot more
much, yeah.
movies that I feel like are more in depth or fleshed
yeah,
out
like
for me.
yeah.
Yeah, so I have my running list going, and this ended up, this is the 14th one.
Oh, okay.
And I dropped it at number 3.
Oh.
Which where we'll end up at the end of 27 though? Will it
Yeah, it's gonna-
slide?
it's
Like
gonna
I had
slide
Winter
down.
Soldier in number. I really like Winter Soldier, and someone's like, "You're Winter Soldier really
Oh.
like low on your list." And I was like, "Well, we'll see where it ends up. It's 3 now, but that doesn't mean it's going to be 3 later." To your point, so many people love this movie. Like this is
Yeah.
out of the movies like that have come up when talking with people. People are like Civil
Really?
War, Civil War. Oh my God, Civil War.
That's not.
But I
That's- yeah.
think it's the idea of like, it's like cheap heat almost in terms of like,
Yeah.
it's the Spider-Man. Oh my
Yeah.
God, Black Panther's in
Yeah.
this. Where like it kind of pops like that. Where you're like, this is so cool. Look at all of them fight. But if you were to kind of remove that and
Yeah.
look at the story, look at it's good. And I think
Yeah.
it's for me. I guess maybe I got a little more one over on that as I'm like criticizing you like, oh, Spider-Man, Black Panther, but. Like I said before, though, these types of movies have an advantage for the
Yeah.
ranking because you have more that you can like
Yes.
within it. When it's just one
100%.
superhero, if you don't like that hero
No.
or heroine, then you don't, you
Okay.
don't like the movie per se.
Yeah.
But it's dropping at number
Yeah.
3 for me. Do you have a favorite all time
Movie?
of these 27?
For the longest
that's-
time, I think it was
oh.
Black Panther for me.
Okay.
No Way
No,
Home sits really
yes,
at the
oh my
top
God.
for me.
Loves No Way
It's
Home.
really
But like
high.
I would qualify it as a Sony movie as well. But No Way Home, that movie gave me
Oh,
like
it
5
was
years to my
so
life.
good.
It was amazing.
Me and Scarlett called each other immediately
Yo, after we watched
it.
yes, it was amazing. But yes, also just like notice the lack of like there's like one woman on each team,
Yeah.
and just you're gonna see how that grows, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not. Well, I'm gonna like retract what I said earlier. It's not one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think I have an actual favorite Marvel
I know,
movie.
it's really hard to
Because
It is
yeah,
hard. It's a tough
it
question.
is, but I love No Way Home.
Mhm.
Black Widow. I think that's a great movie.
I
I'm
do
gonna
like Black
yeah.
Widow. I wouldn't put it at the top though. I like
No.
it. Like I like the plot, but like
yeah.
maybe it's because I watched it
Yeah,
more
honestly,
recently,
I don't
but-
think I have a favorite. I think I like lots of movies, but I don't have a favorite because I could find like something that just bothered me. But No Way Home, that was a perfect
Yeah.
movie.
It's probably a question where like it rotates. It could be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
let me think about it at different times.
I'm still waiting for the next big break. The best. I'm just my favorites are still coming out. I want to see Thor: Love and Thunder.
yeah.
Ragnarok was great.
Ragnarok was
great.
my top for a
yes,
while,
yeah.
too.
I've heard of that. That's another one that
Yeah.
Oh,
continually
it's good.
pops up as a favorite.
Yeah,
Well, we are the 27. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Jump over to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Help us out over there. Classic YouTube channel. We are filming this episode. Go and watch this episode, if for nothing, the turn and talk between Rebecca and Scarlet when we broke down the teams. We have a bunch of other episodes up there as well. Letterboxd is where I'm keeping my running rankings. You can make your own list of any movies on Letterboxd. I have my mine updated there to slide Civil War in at number 3. Go check out Operation Tomato Meter. We have Jess here, our intrepid producer. What did you just do? What is the most recent episode of Tomato Meter?
So the next episode to come out is Coda, which won an Oscar
yes.
award.
Yes, oh my God,
Yeah,
yes.
so stay tuned for that. It will be coming out next week.
Very cool. We are 4 weeks away from the AP U.S. History
No!
It's the same day that the
Oh my God,
Doctor
Doctor
Strange
Strange,
comes out.
yes.
There you go. Go celebrate being
Yes,
done with
literally.
A-Push.
Oh.
So with that being said, we have our Hit Pod, our history podcast. I've kind of been busy, senior trip, other stuff going on, so I missed the last couple of weeks. But we have review episodes about the different topics. And once we get into spring break, one of my jobs over spring break is to go back to period 1 and start making review episodes for everything. So go check out the Hit Pod, the You Know Ball podcast with Finn Servino. Check that out as well. We thank Jessica, our producer, for being here with us today. Our film editor, Ryan, will be doing some work with this as well. And next week, we're going to talk about Black Widow with, surprise, surprise, Scarlet and Rebecca coming right back to talk Black Widow with us. Thank you for coming in. This was a really fun conversation, fun movie.
Yes.
And again, just that answer right there, that
Thank
made
you
it for
for
me.
having us.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you to everyone listening, and we will see you next week on the 27. Take care.